Captain Jake Morrison stood in front of the large screen in the command center of Earth's newest spaceship, the USS Defiance. The numbers and symbols glowing on the screen had kept him awake for 3 nights straight. This was not just any message. This was the first message Earth had ever received from aliens. Dr. Lisa Grant walked up beside him, holding a tablet in her hands. Her eyes were red from staying up late, just like everyone else on the team. She had been working with the other scientists for weeks to understand what the aliens were trying to tell them. Captain Morrison, we finished checking the math again. She said, the message is definitely real. It's not from Earth, and it's not some mistake or joke. Someone from another star system sent this to us. Morrison nodded slowly. He had hoped the scientists would find some error, some proof that this was all a big mistake. Life would be much simpler if humans were still alone in the universe. But deep down, he had known this day would come eventually. What exactly does it say, Dr. Grant? He asked. Lisa looked at her tablet and began to explain. The message starts with basic math, prime numbers, the value of pi, and simple equations. This shows us that whoever sent it understands mathematics the same way we do. Then it moves on to more complex information. She swiped her finger across the tablet screen. After the math, there are star charts, very detailed ones. They show the position of our sun and several nearby star systems. But one system is marked differently. It's about 47 light years away from Earth. Morrison frowned. Marked how? With repeated patterns in what looks like an invitation symbol. Our best guess is that they want us to come visit them at that location. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks, who had been listening quietly from his station, turned around in his chair. Brooks was the head of security for the mission, and Morrison trusted his judgment completely. Captain, something about this doesn't feel right, Brooks said. Why would they give us directions to meet them somewhere else? If they're advanced enough to send messages across space, why not just come here to Earth? Dr. Grant shook her head. Lieutenant Commander Brooks, there could be many reasons. Maybe they want to meet on neutral ground. Maybe their ships can't travel as far as ours can. Maybe it's some kind of test to see if we're advanced enough to make the trip. Brooks stood up and walked over to join them at the main screen. Or maybe it's a trap. The room became quiet. Morrison looked at the alien message again. Thinking about what Brooks had said, the military man had a point. It was strange that the aliens wanted to meet so far from Earth in empty space. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice came through the communication system from Earth. She had been following their conversation from the command center back home. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Sullivan. I've been listening to your discussion. I understand Lieutenant Commander Brooks has concerns, but we need to remember how important this is. This is humanity's first chance to meet another intelligent species. We can't let fear stop us from making this historic contact. Morrison pressed a button to reply. Admiral Sullivan, I agree, this is important, but Brooks raises valid questions. Shouldn't we at least try to learn more about these aliens before we go flying across the galaxy to meet them? Captain, we've been studying this message for 2 months. Our best scientists, mathematicians, and linguists have all agreed that it's a peaceful invitation. The mathematical language they used shows intelligence and a desire to communicate. There's nothing threatening about it. Brooks crossed his arms. With respect, Admiral, there's nothing clearly peaceful about it either. It's just math and star charts. For all we know, this could be how they lure other species into traps. Dr. Grant looked annoyed. Lieutenant Commander, you're being paranoid. Why would an advanced alien civilization need to trick us? If they wanted to hurt humanity, they could probably do it without complicated schemes. Maybe, Brooks replied, but maybe they can't. Maybe they need us to come to them for some reason. Maybe they're not as powerful as we think. Admiral Sullivan's voice came through the speakers again. Captain Morrison, Earth's leadership has made the decision. The USS Defiance will travel to the coordinates provided in the alien message. You'll carry a full diplomatic team, scientific equipment, and gifts representing the best of human culture. This mission launches in 1 week. Morrison felt a knot form in his stomach. A week was not much time to prepare for humanity's first contact with aliens. Admiral, What about security preparations? If Brooks is right and this is some kind of trap, we need to be ready. The Defiance will carry standard defensive systems and a small security team. But this is a diplomatic mission, Captain. We're going to make friends, not start a war. The last thing we want is to appear threatening to an advanced alien civilization. After the communication ended, Morrison stood alone with Brooks and Dr. Grant. The three of them stared at the alien message. On the screen! I don't like this, Brooks said quietly. Something feels wrong. Why that specific location? Why not somewhere closer to their home world or ours? Dr. Grant sighed. Maybe you're right to be careful, but we can't assume the worst about every alien we meet. This could be the beginning of a new age for humanity. Think about what we could learn from them. Their technology, their science, their culture. Morrison made his decision. We're going, but we're going prepared. Brooks, I want you to quietly prepare additional security measures. Don't tell anyone from Earth about it. If this turns out to be peaceful first contact, no harm done. If it's a trap, we'll be ready. Brooks smiled for the first time in days. Yes, sir. What kind of preparations? Everything you think we might need. Extra weapons, emergency supplies, escape plans. Treat this like a military operation that's disguised as a diplomatic mission. Dr. Grant looked worried. Captain, if Earth's leadership finds out we're preparing for combat, they might cancel the mission or replace you with someone else. Then we make sure they don't find out. Morrison replied. Doctor, I want you to continue preparing for peaceful contact. Study everything we know about the message in these aliens. But I also want you to think about what we do if things go wrong. Over the next week, the USS Defiance prepared for its historic journey. On the surface, everything looked like a normal diplomatic mission. The ship was loaded with gifts for the aliens, including art, music, literature, and examples of human technology. Dr. Grant's scientific team brought equipment to study alien biology, culture, and technology. But hidden beneath this peaceful preparation, Brooks and his security team were getting ready for war. Extra weapons were secretly loaded into storage compartments. Emergency supplies were hidden throughout the ship. Combat plans were developed and quietly shared with trusted crew members. Morrison spent his last night on Earth walking through the city, looking at the people going about their normal lives. Most of them didn't even know about the alien message. They had no idea that humanity was about to step into a much larger and possibly much more dangerous universe. The next morning, the USS Defiance launched from Earth with 200 crew members aboard. As the planet grew smaller behind them, Morrison stood on the bridge watching Earth disappear into the distance. He hoped this would not be the last time any of them saw home. Dr. Grant joined him at the viewing window. Captain, do you think we're doing the right thing? Morrison continued, looking at the stars ahead of them. I think we're doing the only thing we can do. Dr. Humani has always been curious about what's out there. Now we're going to find out. The journey to the alien meeting point would take 3 weeks using their fastest engines. 3 weeks to wonder if they were flying toward the greatest moment in human history, or toward humanity's first interstellar war. 3 weeks after leaving Earth, the USS Defiance arrived at the coordinates given in the alien message. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge, looking through the main viewing window at what they had found. It was not what anyone had expected. Captain, we're detecting a massive structure ahead, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station. It's definitely artificial, but it's not like any spaceship design we've ever seen. Morrison nodded. Through the window, he could see a huge space station floating in the darkness. It was at least 5 miles long and 2 miles wide, made of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange towers and antenna arrays stuck out from its surface in all directions. Dr. Lisa Grant joined him at the window, her tablet ready to record everything they saw. It's incredible, Captain! The construction techniques are completely foreign to us. Look at how the different sections connect together. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks was studying his tactical display with a worried expression. Captain, I'm not detecting any energy signatures from weapon systems, but this station is definitely powered. There are energy readings coming from all sections. Any signs of life? Morrison asked. That's the strange part, sir. There are no life signs anywhere on the station. It appears to be completely empty. Dr. Grant looked puzzled. Maybe they're waiting inside for us to make contact. Or maybe their biology is so different from ours that our sensors can't detect them. Morrison made a decision. We'll approach slowly and try to establish communication. Brooks, keep all weapons ready, but don't power them up yet. I don't want to appear threatening. Commander Alex Turner, the leader of the boarding teams, approached the captain. Sir, if we're going to make contact, we should prepare a small team to board their station. It would show good faith. I agree, Morrison said. But we're going to be very careful about this. Turner, select your best people. Take communication equipment and recording devices. If something goes wrong, get back to the ship immediately. As the Defiance moved closer to the alien station, more details became visible. The structure was clearly designed for multiple different types of beings. Some sections had windows that were much larger than humans would need. Other areas had what looked like airlocks designed for creatures of different sizes. Captain, said Specialist Maya Rodriguez from the communication station, I'm detecting automated signals coming from the station. They're using the same mathematical patterns as the original message we received on Earth. What are they saying? Morrison asked. Maya worked at her controls for several minutes before responding. The message is simple. It just says welcome over and over and provides docking instructions for Base 7. Dr. Grant smiled. This is it, Captain. First contact with an alien civilization. We're about to make history. Brooks remained skeptical. It's too convenient. Empty station. Simple welcome message. Clear docking instructions. It feels like they're trying to make this as easy as possible. Maybe they are, Dr. Grant replied. Maybe they want to make sure we feel comfortable and safe. Morrison gave the order to dock with the station. As the Defiance approached Bay 7, massive doors opened automatically. The bay was large enough to hold 3 ships the size of the Defiance, with room to spare. Artificial gravity is working in the docking bay, reported Chief Engineer Binge Parker from his station. Atmosphere is breathable for humans, though it's a bit thin. Temperature is comfortable. Commander Turner led a team of 8 people through the airlock and onto the alien station. The rest of the crew watched through cameras attached to their helmets. The docking bay was enormous and empty, with smooth walls that seemed to be made of the same dark metal as the exterior. This place is huge, Turner said over the radio. The ceiling must be at least 100 feet high. There are passages leading in multiple directions. Morrison watched a video feed from the bridge. Take your time, Commander. Document everything you see. Turner's team moved slowly through the station. The corridors were wide and tall, clearly designed for beings larger than humans. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, and soft lights came on automatically as they walked. Captain Turner said, "We're finding more evidence that this place was built for multiple species. Some doorways are human-sized, others are much larger. Some areas have different atmospheric controls." Dr. Grant was fascinated by what she was seeing. It's like a meeting place designed for many different types of aliens. Maybe this is where they conduct diplomacy with new species. After an hour of exploration, Turner's team found what appeared to be a central control room. Banks of alien computers lined the walls, and screens showed star charts and information in languages no human could read. "We found something," Turner reported. "Maya, can you try to interface with their computer systems?" Specialist Rodriguez connected her equipment to one of the alien consoles. Almost immediately, the screens around the room began to change. Information started appearing in English as if the computers were translating themselves. "It's working," Maya said excitedly. "Their computers are adapting to our language. I'm seeing files, records, star charts. This is incredible." But as Maya accessed more files, her excitement turned to horror. "Captain, you need to see this. These aren't diplomatic records. These are ... collection records." Morrison felt his blood run cold. "What kind of collection records?" Maya's voice was shaking as she read from the screen. "Species catalogs, biological data, harvest schedules, Captain. This isn't a diplomatic station. It's some kind of processing facility." On the screen, information scrolled past showing hundreds of different alien species, Each entry included detailed biological information, technology assessments, and what appeared to be disposal methods. "Get out of there," Brooks said urgently. "Turner, bring your team back to the ship right now." But as Turner's team tried to leave the control room, they found that the doors had sealed shut. Emergency lights began flashing throughout the station, and a low humming sound filled the air. "Captain," Turner said, "we can't get out. The doors are locked, and I think the station is activating some kind of security system." Morrison ran to the tactical station. "Brooks, get us undocked from this station immediately." "I'm trying, sir, but the docking clamps won't release. Something is holding us here." Chief Engineer Parker was working frantically at his controls. "Captain, powerful energy fields just activated around our ship. Our engines are being disrupted. We can't break free." Dr. Grant stared at the information still scrolling across the screens in the control room. "Captain, I'm reading the records Maya found. This station has been here for thousands of years. It's collected and cataloged over 3,000 different species." "Collected?" Morrison asked, though he was beginning to understand the terrible truth. "Lured here, studied, and then eliminated or enslaved. The species that built this station called themselves the Collectors. They send out false invitation messages to new civilizations, promising peaceful contact. When species respond, they're trapped and harvested." The humming sound grew louder, and new systems began activating throughout the station. Mechanical arms extended from hidden panels, and scanning beams swept across the Defiance's hull. "They're scanning our ship," Brooks reported, "recording our technology, our biological signatures, everything." Morrison grabbed the communication microphone. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth vessel Defiance. We know what you are and what you're doing. Release our people and our ship immediately." A new voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect English with no emotion. "Greetings, humans. We are the Collectors. You have responded to our invitation as 3,047 species have done before you. Your collection and cataloging will begin shortly. Do not resist. Resistance only prolongs the process." Turner's voice crackled over the radio from the control room where his team was trapped. "Captain, I'm reading more information here. The Collectors have been doing this for over 50,000 years. They take the best technology, biological traits, and resources from each species they capture. They've built their entire civilization on stolen knowledge." The alien voice continued. "Humans show interesting potential. Your biological diversity is acceptable. Your technology is primitive but shows promise. Your cultural information will be valuable. Prepare for collection." Morrison looked around the bridge at his crew. He could see fear in their eyes, but also anger. These Collectors had made a serious mistake. They had studied thousands of other species, but they had never encountered humans before. "Brooks," Morrison said quietly, "initiate Protocol 7. Brooks smiled grimly. "Yes, sir. It's time to show these Collectors what happens when they try to harvest the wrong species." Dr. Grant looked confused. "What's Protocol 7? Morrison walked to the center of the bridge and activated the ship's internal communication system. His voice echoed throughout the Defiance as he spoke to the entire crew. "Attention, all hands. This is your captain. We are not guests here. We are prey. These aliens have been hunting and killing other species for thousands of years. They think we're just another easy target. They're about to learn why that was a very bad assumption." Protocol 7 was something the Earth military had developed in secret, despite civilian leaders calling it unnecessary paranoia. It was a plan for what to do if humanity's first contact with aliens turned hostile. Most people thought it would never be needed. They were wrong. Captain Morrison's announcement echoed through every corridor of the USS Defiance. Within minutes, the ship transformed from a diplomatic vessel into a warship. Hidden panels opened throughout the ship, revealing weapons and equipment that had been secretly installed before launch. Sergeant First Class Danny Chen had been waiting for this moment. He commanded the 12 Marines who had been brought along as ceremonial guards for the diplomatic mission. In reality, they were Special Forces soldiers trained for exactly this kind of situation. "Marines, gear up," Chen ordered over his radio. "Full combat equipment. We're going hunting." In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Patricia Wong was studying the psychological profiles that Specialist Rodriguez had downloaded from the collector computers. As a xenopsychologist, she wanted to understand how these aliens thought and what weaknesses they might have. "Captain," she reported over the communication system, "I'm analyzing the collector records. They've been doing this for 50 years, but they always follow the same pattern. They expect other species to panic, then surrender or fight uselessly until they're overwhelmed." Morrison responded from the bridge. "What makes them think we'll follow that pattern, Doctor? Because every other species has Z. The collectors have never encountered a species that got more dangerous when threatened instead of more helpless." Lieutenant Commander Brooks was coordinating the ship's defense systems. Hidden weapons emerged from concealed compartments throughout the Defiance. The ship had been designed to look like a peaceful exploration vessel, but it was actually armed for serious combat. "Captain, all weapons systems are online," Brooks reported. "The collector's energy field is still holding us in place, but Chief Parker thinks he can overload it if we channel enough power through our engines." Chief Engineer Ben Parker was working in the engine room with his team, preparing to break free from the collector's trap. "The energy field is strong, but it's designed to hold ships that don't fight back. If we can generate enough feedback through our quantum drive, we might be able to disrupt it." Meanwhile, Commander Turner and his team were still trapped in the control room of the collector station. But instead of panicking like the collectors expected, Turner was using the time to gather intelligence about their captors. "Maya, keep downloading everything you can from their computers," Turner ordered. "Ship locations, fleet strength, other harvesting stations. If we get out of here, this information could save other species." Specialist Rodriguez was working frantically at the alien computers. "Commander, I'm finding records of active harvesting operations. There are 17 other stations like this one scattered across the galaxy. They have ships collecting species right now." The collectors had begun their standard harvesting procedure. Mechanical arms extended from the station walls, designed to cut into the hull of the trapped ship and extract samples of the crew. But when they tried to penetrate the Defiance's armor, they met unexpected resistance. "Sir," Brooks reported, "their cutting tools can't get through our hull. Our armor is made of materials they haven't encountered before." Morrison smiled grimly. "Earth's military learned a long time ago that if you're going to explore a dangerous universe, you better be prepared for anything." The collector voice came through the speakers again, but this time it sounded less confident. "Human vessel, you are resisting collection procedures. This is inefficient. Submit to harvesting and the process will be completed quickly." Morrison grabbed the microphone. "This is Captain Morrison. Here's a counteroffer. Release our people and let us go, and we won't destroy your entire operation." There was a pause before the collector responded. "Humans demonstrate unexpected behavioral patterns. Threat assessment being revised. Beginning enhanced collection procedures. More systems activated throughout the station. Larger cutting tools emerged, and powerful energy beams began striking the Defiance's hull. But the ship's defenses held, and the human crew began their counterattack. Sergeant Chen and his Marines had reached the docking bay where the ship connected to the station. They planted explosive charges on the docking clamps that were holding them in place. "Captain, we're ready to blow the docking connections," Chen reported. "But we need to get Turner's team out first." Dr. Wong had been studying the station's layout on the screens. "I think I found a way to reach them. The collectors built this place for multiple species, so there are maintenance tunnels designed for smaller beings. Our people might be able to use them." Lieutenant Tom Bradley, the ship's best pilot, volunteered for the rescue mission. "I can navigate those tunnels. Captain, let me take a small team and get them out," while Bradley prepared for his rescue mission. The collectors made their biggest mistake yet. They released their security drones, expecting the humans to be terrified by the alien machines. Instead, the humans studied them with professional interest. "Interesting design," Chen observed, as the drones approached. "But they're built to intimidate, not to fight effectively. Marines, target the sensor clusters. These things are basically flying computers." The Marines opened fire with weapons the collectors had never seen before. Human firearms use chemicals propellants, and solid projectiles completely different from the energy weapons most species had developed. The collector drones, designed to deflect energy beams, were torn apart by bullets. "What are these primitive projectile weapons?" the collector voice asked, sounding confused for the first time. Brooks answered over the communication system while targeting more drones. "They're called guns. We kept using them because they work." Chief Parker had finished his preparations in the engine room. "Captain, I'm ready to overload their containment field, but it's going to take everything we've got. All weapons will be offline for 30 seconds while we channel power to the engines." Morrison considered the risks. 30 seconds without weapons would leave them vulnerable, but it might be their only chance to break free. "Do it, Chief! All hands, prepare for emergency acceleration." The Defiance's engines roared to life with more power than they had ever generated before. Energy feedback surged through the collector containment field, causing systems throughout the station to overload and fail. Lieutenant Bradley had reached the control room where Turner's team was trapped. Using explosive charges, he blew open the sealed doors and led them through the maintenance tunnels back to the ship. "All teams, get back to the ship now," Morrison ordered. "We're leaving in 60 seconds. The collectors tried to stop the humans from escaping, but their systems were failing throughout the station. The feedback from the Defiance's engines had caused cascading power failures, and their automated systems couldn't compensate fast enough. "This is impossible," the collector voice said, now clearly distressed. "No species has ever broken free from our harvesting station. Your technology should not be capable of this." Sergeant Chen detonated the charges on the docking clamps just as the last of his Marines returned to the ship. The Defiance broke free from the station and began accelerating away. But Captain Morrison wasn't finished. Instead of fleeing immediately, he ordered the ship to turn around and face the collector station. "Captain, what are you doing?" Dr. Grant asked. "We should get away while we can." Morrison looked at the alien station on the main screen. "Doctor, that thing has been murdering entire civilizations for 50,000 years. We're not just going to run away and let it continue." Commander Turner had returned to the bridge with the intelligence they had gathered. "Captain, we have the locations of other harvesting stations and information about their fleet movements. This could be the beginning of something much bigger than just our escape." The collectors were trying to repair their systems and reactivate their containment field, but the humans had learned something important during their brief captivity. The collectors were completely dependent on technology they had stolen from other species. They had become so used to easy victories that they had forgotten how to adapt when faced with real resistance. "Brooks, target their power generators," Morrison ordered. "Let's see how well their stolen technology works when we give them a real fight." The Defiance opened fire on the collector station with everything they had. Energy beams and projectile weapons struck the station's critical systems, causing explosions and power failures throughout the structure. "Humans," the collector voice said now, desperate. "You do not understand. We are an ancient and powerful civilization. You cannot defeat us." Morrison smiled as he watched the station's defenses crumble under their attack. "You're right. We can't defeat your entire civilization, but we can defeat you. And then we're going to warn every other species in the galaxy about what you really are." The USS Defiance had arrived at the meeting point as potential victims. They were leaving as something the collectors had never encountered before. A species that refused to be harvested and had the weapons and determination to fight back effectively. The USS Defiance hung in space next to the damaged collector station, like a predator studying wounded prey. Captain Morrison watched the explosions and power failures spreading across the alien structure. For 50,000 years, this station had been a death trap for other species. Today, it had become something else entirely. "Captain," reported Master Chief Kelly Davis from the tactical station, "their main power core is failing. Life support systems are shutting down throughout the station." Morrison nodded. Master Chief Davis was the most experienced soldier on the ship, with 30 years of military service. If anyone could assess the enemy's condition, it was her. "Any signs of evacuation pods or escape ships?" Morrison asked. Lieutenant Commander Nicole Foster, who handled strategic operations, studied her sensor readings. "Negative, sir. It appears the collectors never planned for the possibility that their station might be attacked. They have no emergency escape procedures." Dr. Steve Hamilton, the ship's weapons technology specialist, was analyzing the effectiveness of their attack. Captain, their defensive systems are completely offline. Whatever materials they used to build this station, they're not designed to withstand the kind of weapons we brought. Sergeant Chen and his Marines had suited up for another mission. Captain, request permission to board the station again. This time, we're not going as prisoners. Morrison considered the request. Going back to the station was dangerous, but they needed more information about the collectors and their operations. Permission granted, Sergeant, but this time, you're going in armed and ready for anything. Dr. Grant was studying the data they had downloaded from the collector computers. Captain, I'm finding incredible information here. The collectors have detailed records of every species they've encountered. Some of these civilizations were thousands of years more advanced than we are. What happened to them? Morrison asked. Harvested and destroyed, every single one. The collectors would study each species, take their best technology and biological traits, then eliminate any survivors. They've been building their civilization on the ruins of others for millennia. Lieutenant Commander Brooks was coordinating the ship's systems while keeping watch for other collector vessels. Captain, if they've been doing this for 50,000 years, they must have a massive fleet and multiple bases of operation. Commander Turner, still recovering from his earlier capture, joined the discussion. That's what we need to find out. The computers on that station contain the locations of their other facilities and fleet positions. If we can capture that information, we might be able to warn other species or even launch preemptive strikes. Sergeant Chan's team boarded the crippled station through a hull breach created by their weapons fire. This time, they moved through the corridors like soldiers instead of diplomats. The station's automated defenses were offline, and emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls. Captain, we're inside, Chen reported. The place is a wreck. Atmosphere is thin but breathable. We're heading to the main computer core. As Chun's team moved deeper into the station, they began to encounter the collectors themselves for the first time. The aliens were tall, thin beings with gray skin and large black eyes. They moved slowly and seemed confused by the damage to their station. Contact, Chen reported calmly. We have visual on the collectors. They appear to be unarmed and disoriented. One of the collectors approached Chan's team with its hands raised in what might have been a surrender gesture. When it spoke, the station's translation system converted its words to English. Humans, why do you continue to resist? The harvesting process is beneficial for all species. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be preserved forever in our collective. Marina Corporal Lisa Martinez, who was part of Chen's team, responded while keeping her weapon trained on the alien. Preserved after you kill us all. You mean death is inefficient, the collector replied. We preserve the best specimens of each species. Your knowledge and abilities become part of our civilization. This is a form of immortality. Chen stepped forward. How many species have you offered this immortality to? 3,047 confirmed collections. Hundreds of thousands of individual specimens preserved and studied. The Marines exchanged glances. The numbers were staggering. Entire civilizations had been reduced to specimens in collector laboratories. Back on the Defiance, Dr. Hamilton was analyzing the weapons technology they had captured from the station. Captain, this is fascinating. The collector's weapons are all based on technology stolen from other species. They have energy weapons from at least a dozen different civilizations, but they don't really understand how any of them work. What? Do you mean? Morrison asked. They can use the weapons, but they can't improve them or adapt them to new situations. It's like they're using tools they found without understanding the science behind them. When we attacked with weapons they'd never encountered before, their entire defensive strategy fell apart. Dr. Wong was studying the psychological profiles of the collectors from the captured data. Captain, I think I understand why they've been so successful for so long. They target species during specific points in their development, usually right after they achieve interstellar travel, but before they've had time to develop serious military capabilities. A narrow window of vulnerability, Morrison observed. Exactly. Most species are so excited about the possibility of meeting other intelligent Life that they respond to the invitation without taking proper precautions. By the time they realize it's a trap, it's too late. Lieutenant Bradley was monitoring communications from the station. Captain, I'm detecting transmissions from the collectors. They're sending distress signals to other facilities. Morrison felt a chill. What kind of signals? Emergency protocols. They're reporting that they've encountered a species that doesn't follow expected behavioral patterns. They're requesting immediate assistance. Commander Turner looked up from his analysis of the captured data. Captain, according to these records, the collectors have never sent a distress signal before. In 50,000 years, no species has ever damaged one of their stations. Master Chief Davis was already thinking tactically. Sir, if they're calling for help, we need to either finish this fast or get out of here before reinforcements arrive. Chen's voice came over the radio from inside the station. Captain, we've reached the main computer core. The collectors here are trying to delete their databases, but Maya is stopping them. Specialist Rodriguez was working frantically to preserve the alien data. I'm copying everything I can, but their security systems are fighting me. They're trying to wipe all records of their other operations. Morrison made a command decision. Chen, capture any collectors who are trying to delete data. We need that information. Yes, sir. You heard the Captain Marines. Anyone interfering with our computer access is now a prisoner. The collectors seemed shocked when the humans began taking them captive. In their entire history, they had never been on the receiving end of a collection operation. This is not acceptable. One collector protested as Chen's team secured it with restraints. We are the harvesters, not the harvested. This reversal of roles is impossible. Corporal Martinez smiled grimly. Get used to it. Today, you're the specimens. Dr. Hamilton had finished his analysis of the collector technology. Captain, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that their technology is impressive, but not superior to ours. Most of it is stolen and poorly integrated. And the bad news is that they have a lot of it. If they have 17 stations like this one, and each station has been collecting technology for thousands of years, their total military capability could be enormous. Morrison studied the tactical display showing the damaged station. Then we need to make sure they don't get a chance to use it all against us. Commander Turner had discovered something important in the captured data. Captain, I found their fleet deployment records. There are collector ships scattered throughout this sector, but most of them are engaged in active harvesting operations. They're not expecting military resistance. How long before reinforcements can reach this position? Morrison asked. Based on their ship speeds and current positions, at least 6 hours. Morrison smiled. 6 hours was enough time to complete their mission and send a message that would change everything. Brooks, prepare the ship for extended combat operations. Chen, finish securing those prisoners and get back here with everything we can carry. Hamilton, I want you to study every piece of collector technology we can get our hands on. What's the plan, Captain? Dr. Grant asked. Morrison looked at the alien station one more time. We're going to do something the collectors never expected. We're going to turn their own methods against them. But first, we're going to make sure this station never harvests another species. The USS Defiance powered up its weapons for a final strike against the collector station. But this time, they weren't just fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for every species the collectors had destroyed and every species they might target in the future. 6 months after the USS Defiance escaped from the collector trap, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of a much larger ship. The USS Guardian was 3 times the size of the Defiance and carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. It was also not alone. Around the Guardian, 47 other human warships moved in perfect formation through space. This was Earth's deep space combat fleet, a military force that most of humanity's civilian government had not known existed until the collector threat was revealed. Admiral Peter Stone, commander of the entire fleet, stood beside Morrison, looking at their tactical displays. The information stolen from the collector station had led them to this moment, humanity's first major interstellar military operation. Captain Torres's report, Stone said into his communication device. Captain Rachel, Torres commanded the USS Vengeance, one of the fleet's heavy assault ships. Admiral, we have 17 collector harvesting stations identified and targeted. Our intelligence indicates they're all currently active, with ships from various species trapped inside. Stone nodded, and the collector fleet positions scattered and unprepared, sir. Intelligence from our prisoners indicates they've never faced coordinated military resistance before. Their ships are designed for hunting individual vessels, not fighting organized fleets. Morrison thought about the 3 collector prisoners they had taken from the station. Dr. Wong had been studying them for months, learning how their society worked and what weaknesses humanity could exploit. Admiral Morrison said, "The prisoners still insist that resistance is impossible. They claim their collective has harvested over 3,000 species, and that we're just another primitive civilization that will eventually be absorbed." Admiral Stone smiled coldly. Then they're about to learn something new. Colonel Frank Miller, who commanded the fleet's Special Operations Forces, was coordinating with ground teams throughout the human fleet. "Admiral, all boarding teams are ready. We have Marines prepared to assault every collector station simultaneously." The plan was ambitious and dangerous. Instead of simply destroying the collector stations, humanity had decided to capture them and rescue any surviving members of other species. The intelligence they had gathered showed that the collectors kept some individuals from each harvested species alive for study purposes. "Communications," Stone ordered. "Send the message to all collector stations." Lieutenant Sarah Kim, who had been promoted after her service on the Defiance, transmitted humanity's ultimatum across all collector communication channels. "Attention, collector facilities. This is Admiral Stone of the Earth Defense Force. You have 60 seconds to release all prisoners and surrender your stations. Any facility that does not comply will be destroyed. This is your only warning." The response came quickly from multiple collector stations. "Human fleet, you are making a serious error. We are an ancient civilization with vast resources. Your small fleet cannot threaten our collective." Stone looked at Morrison. "Captain Wood, you care to respond?" Morrison activated the fleet communication system. "Collector Collective, this is Captain Morrison of the vessel you tried to harvest 6 months ago. You're right about one thing. We are a small fleet, but we're not alone anymore." As if summoned by his words, new ships began appearing on the tactical displays. These were not human vessels. The first to arrive were the Zephyrians, bird-like beings whose homeworld had been attacked by collectors 3 years earlier. Only a few thousand of their people had escaped, but they had spent those years building ships and weapons for revenge. Next came the Korthon, a warrior species that had lost half their population to a collector harvesting operation 50 years ago. They arrived in massive battleships that looked like floating fortresses. Admiral Stone had spent months tracking down and contacting the survivors of collector attacks. What they found were dozens of species that had been waiting for someone to organize a resistance movement. Collective Stone announced, "Meet the Galactic Liberation Alliance. 47 human ships, 38 Zephyrian attack vessels, 22 Korthon battleships, and representatives from 15 other species that you've tried to destroy." Captain Torres was monitoring the collector communications. "Admiral, they're requesting immediate reinforcement from their main fleet. But, according to our intelligence, their nearest major forces are weeks away." Morrison smiled. "They designed their entire strategy around isolated attacks on unprepared victims. They never expected to face organized resistance from multiple species working together." The battle began simultaneously at 17 different locations across the galaxy. Human Marines, supported by alien allies, stormed collector stations, while their fleets engaged any defending ships at the station nearest to the Guardian. Morrison led a boarding party that included both human soldiers and alien warriors. The collectors tried to activate their standard defensive measures, but the Alliance forces were prepared for everything. "Maya, disable their computer systems," Morrison ordered as they fought their way through the station corridors. Specialist Rodriguez, now a senior communications expert, connected her improved equipment to the collector systems. "Sir, I'm not just disabling them, I'm taking control. We can use their own systems against them." The collectors had never faced opponents who understood their technology well enough to turn it against them. Within hours, their defensive systems were being used to trap collector personnel while freeing their prisoners. Dr. Grant, who had insisted on joining the mission despite the dangers, was working with rescued aliens in the station's medical bay. Captain, we are finding survivors from dozens of different species. Some have been prisoners here for years. Among the rescued beings was a group of Altarians, a peaceful species that had been nearly extinct after their encounter with the Collectors 5 years earlier. Their leader, an elderly being named Vex II, approached Morrison with tears in his large eyes. "Human Captain," Vex II said through the translation device. "We had given up hope. We thought we were the last of our kind. How did you organize this rescue?" Morrison looked around at the diverse group of beings working together to free the prisoners. "We learned something the Collectors never understood. When you attack someone's family, their friends, their entire species, you don't just make enemies. You make allies out of everyone else who might be next." The battle was shorter than anyone had expected. The Collectors, despite their advanced technology and 50,000 years of experience, were completely unprepared for coordinated resistance. Their ships fled or surrendered at every location. Admiral Stone received reports from all 17 battle sites. Total victory across all targets. 14 stations captured intact. 3 destroyed when their crews tried to self-destruct. Over 15,000 prisoners rescued, representing 43 different species. But the most important victory was the intelligence they captured. The Collector databases contained the locations of their main fleet bases, their manufacturing facilities, and their command centers. Colonel Miller was already planning the next phase of operations. "Admiral, with this information, we can strike at their core facilities. We could end their entire operation within a year." Stone nodded. "Begin preparations for Phase 2. But first, we need to establish permanent bases and communication networks. The galaxy is a big place, and there are probably hundreds of species out there who don't even know the Collectors exist yet." Morrison returned to the bridge of the Guardian as they prepared to leave the captured station. Through the viewing windows, he could see ships from a dozen different species working together to repair the damage and convert the station into a military base. Dr. Wang joined him at the window. "Captain, the psychological impact of this victory will spread throughout Collector space faster than their ships can travel. For the first time in their history, they're afraid." "Good," Morrison replied. "Fear will make them make mistakes. And when they do, we'll be ready." 6 months later, Captain Morrison received a message that made him smile. It was from Admiral Stone, reporting from the former Collector homeworld, which was now the headquarters of the Galactic Liberation Alliance. The message was simple. Collector threat eliminated. Galaxy-wide communication network established. 47 species have joined the Alliance. Humanity's reputation as galactic protectors is secure. Mission accomplished. Morrison looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, other species were receiving humanity's real first contact message. Not an invitation to be harvested, but an offer of protection and alliance. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, with guns drawn not because they wanted to start a war, but because they understood that sometimes peace could only be protected by those willing to fight for it.